Listen to the reading of the Word of God for the people of God. Genesis chapter 16, verses 1 through 6. Now Sarah, Abram's wife, had not been able to bear children for him, but she had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. So Sarah said to Abram, "The Lord has prevented me from having children. Go and sleep with my servant. Perhaps I can have children through her." And Abram agreed with Sarah's proposal. So Sarah, Abram's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian servant, and gave her to Abram as a wife. This happened 10 years after Abram had settled into the land of Canaan. So Abram had sexual relations with Hagar, and she became pregnant. But when Hagar knew she was pregnant, she began to treat her mistress Sarah with contempt. Then Sarah said to Abram, "This is all your fault. I put my servant into your arms, but now that she's pregnant, she treats me with contempt. The Lord will show who's wrong, you or me." Abram replied, "Look, she is your servant, so deal with her as you see fit." Then Sarah treated Hagar so harshly that she finally ran away. The angel of the Lord found Hagar beside a spring of water in the wilderness, along the road to Shur. The angel said to her, "Hagar, Sarah's servant, where have you come from, and where are you going?" "I'm running away from my mistress, Sarah," she replied. The angel of the Lord said to her, "Return to your mistress and submit to her authority." And he added, "I will give you more descendants than you can count." And the angel also said, "You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You are to name him Ishmael, which means God hears. For the Lord has heard your cry of distress. The son of yours will be a wild man, as untamed as a wild donkey. He will raise his fist against everyone, and everyone will be against him. Yes, he will live in open hostility against all of his relatives." Therefore, thereafter, Hagar used another name to refer to the Lord who had spoken to her. She said, "You are the God who sees me." She also said, "Have I truly seen the one who sees me?" So that well was named Beer-lahai-roi, which means well and the living one who sees me. It can be still found between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar gave Abram a son, and Abram named him Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Ishmael was born. Thanks be to God. Life is full of promises. Throughout our lives, we make many promises. For those of us who are married, a marriage relationship begins with a promise and a covenant that you're going to be faithful to your spouse as you trust your spouse is going to be faithful to you. For those of us with children, you make a promise to sacrifice yourself for the sake of your child. Life is full of promises. Whenever you get a job, you promise to work for your employer, and you trust that your employer is going to pay for you. Depending on your work schedule, you may start work and wait a week or two, maybe even a month before your first paycheck. You see, promises are to be acted upon before they are fulfilled. You trust in the promise. You live your life trusting and carrying that promise, and then they are fulfilled. You are faithful to your spouse, trusting that your spouse is faithful to you. But sometimes we have relationships where we're not very trusting. Maybe it's someone who's hurt you in the past. Maybe someone you just met for the very first time. Your trust only goes so far. But that type of relationship you cannot have with God. You can only know God so much apart from a relationship. Most of what you get to learn about God is discovered within inside the relationship. When you trust and have faith, and you step out on that faith, and you discover this experience with God. You experience God's love and your grace. The Bible talks about this as a venturing out, as trusting, it describes it as faith. You begin to have a little bit of faith in God. You act on that faith, and you take a step forward. You experience God in that step, and then you take another step. And you continue to grow in your faith along this journey of following Jesus from day to day. But in our text this morning, we see Abraham and Sarah, great examples of our heritage, of our faith. But in our text today, they are not examples of faith. We look at the Bible and we see Abram and Sarah, how their names are changed to Abraham and Sarah, how the covenant is established with Abraham and Sarah. God tells them that you're going to have children as numerous as the stars in the sky. God tells them that the land that you're in right now, the land of Canaan, is going to be your people's land. You're going to inherit this land. In time, it'll be known as Israel, the promised land. But at this time in our text, in verse 1, says that Sarah could not get pregnant. So even though God has promised to Abraham and Sarah they're going to have children as numerous as the stars in the sky, they're at a moment in their life where they have to decide, are they going to trust in that promise? Because there's no evidence of that promise. Sarah cannot get pregnant. There's going to be moments in our lives that our faith is going to be tested. We hear all kinds of promises from God, of God's presence in our lives, of God's strength and mercy and grace to sustain us from day to day. But when life gets difficult, we're going to wonder, is this promise going to be fulfilled? Is God going to continue to be absent? Or are we going to find God fulfilling our promises? And we have to decide, are we going to act out on faith and take that step forward? Or are we going to be cautious and not have faith? In our text this morning, Abraham and Sarah are cautious. They do not trust in God. Instead, Sarah says to Abram, why don't you take our servant Hagar, get her pregnant so we can have children? That's what happens. Abram takes Hagar as a wife, and she conceives and she is pregnant. And so then they are excited about this new child that's coming to them. But Hagar begins to feel good about herself because she can get pregnant and Sarah cannot. So she begins to treat her master with contempt. Then as a response, Sarah begins to treat Hagar very harshly. See, they're living from this perspective that there's a limited supply of what God can do in the world. There's a limited supply of God's grace and mercy, a limited supply of God's fulfillment of promises. So Hagar is trying to say, God has blessed me with this pregnancy, so God is not going to bless you. And Sarah feels this. She's like, God has blessed her with a pregnancy, so God has not blessed me. So they begin to fight each other with contempt and harsh action because they are arguing over who is connected to God the most. But life is not a competition. God's promises is not limited to one individual or one group of people. God is big enough that God is able to answer all of our promises under God's leading of the Holy Spirit. We experience God's grace because God's grace is unlimited. We experience God's love because God's love is unlimited. In fact, when you begin to experience God's grace a little bit, you become more gracious. And then you become an instrument of sharing more grace into the world. So don't live life like there's a competition that if someone else has something, you can't get it. But when someone else has a blessing of God, recognize that you too can have a blessing. You all can share in that blessing and be an extension of that blessing into the world. But Sarah and Hagar did not feel like this. So Hagar's being treated harshly, and she runs away. She runs out into the wilderness, and she finds herself on this wellspring of water. And all of a sudden, God shows up and asks her, where are you going? Where are you from? And he tells Hagar to go back home to her masters. But he also says that just as I have blessed them and told them about a promise that their children will be as numerous as the stars in the sky, I too am going to be with you as well. I too am going to develop a people and a nation out of your descendants. And so then the angel of the Lord tells Hagar to name her son Ishmael, which means God hears. So you recognize that even though those who have power ostracize those who do not, God is always present with those who do not have any power. Hagar is a servant. She had no choice in the fact to marry Abram and to get pregnant. But she runs away and sees that God is there listening to her, hearing her cry of distress, and reminding her that he has promises for her life as well. But then God expects Hagar to act in faith, to not stay in the wilderness, but to go back home to her masters. So she acts in faith and goes back home. And then she begins to have a new name for God. A God that hears her cry of distress. In fact, she names the well of the living one who hears me, as a testament of this promise has been fulfilled in her life. Then in the text we see how Abram has the child named Ishmael. Ishmael was born and Abram is faithful and calls the child Ishmael. For God hears me. A wonderful testimony of the promise that they have in each other's lives. In the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, is a great example of examples of faith. It's often called the faith chapter in the New Testament. There are 12 examples that the author gives and has a little bit of a section describing why they are examples of faith. Dave read about Abraham and Sarah this morning. If you look at that chapter, it talks about Abel, Enoch, Noah, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses' parents, Moses, the people of Israel, and Rahab, and describes how all these people are great examples of faith. The author goes on to say that other people are great examples of faith, but the author doesn't have time to describe how they are examples of faith, so he just lists them, she just lists them. Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, and all the prophets. But do you notice who is missing in that list? No mention of Hagar and Ishmael. I think this is a fascinating aspect to the story of our faith. Because you look back at the text in Genesis, and it's Hagar and Ishmael who are examples of faith. Hagar is an example of faith, Ishmael is an example of faith, but Abraham and Sarah are not. They don't trust in God's promises that they're going to have children. Instead, they try to work through their own system and figure out a way to get what they want through their own means, and they get Hagar pregnant. Well, Hagar is faithful and goes back home like the angel of the Lord says. So at times we are examples of faith and we follow God. Other people might not recognize it. Other people aren't going to remember years from now when we are faithfully following God. In fact, later in the text in Genesis chapter 21, we see by this time Isaac is born. So Sarah can't get pregnant at first. Hagar gets pregnant with Ishmael. They begin to raise this child. Eventually Sarah does get pregnant with Isaac. And then now Abraham recognizes he has his wife and he has his child. So he no longer needs Hagar and Ishmael. So he casts them out. The Lord is with Hagar and Ishmael. And he goes out with them and says, remember, I am with you. I will protect you. Hagar and Ishmael are getting frustrated. They're about to die. They can't find water. And the text says in Genesis 21 that the angel of the Lord opens her eyes and helps her find water. And eventually they go to the land of Egypt, and that's where Ishmael takes on a wife and develops his lineage and family. So this morning, as we think about the promises that we experience in our lives, you can go to a website, www.365promises.com, and you can find a promise from God for every day of the year. But you have to decide, are you going to act on those promises? There's many promises in the Bible. You can read the stories of Jesus and the teachings of Jesus and discover how many promises God has for you in your life. But when God shares His promises with you, you have to jump out and act in faith. So this morning I'm asking you to be like our children and jump into God's arms. It's easy for us as followers of Jesus to say, I trust you, God, but I'm going to stay up here and just stand here and do nothing. How many people are following Jesus by standing still and doing nothing? While God is on the floor saying, just jump in my arms. I have a whole new life for you if you just let go. So this morning I invite you to let go and to jump and to trust in God's promises. To find the fulfillment of God's experience in your life. To know that this relationship with God is found through experience. You can read about it, you can hear about it from other people, but the only way you're going to feel God is by stepping forward in faith. Will you be that type of person today? To step forward in faith. To receive Christ into your life and to proclaim God's goodness in this world. Our altar is open for you to receive Christ in your life. Our pews are open for you to pray, to recommit your lives to God. As we celebrate the gift of God's promises and proclaim them through how we live our lives. Let us pray together. Good, gracious, loving God, we thank you so much for all the examples of faith in our lives. We thank you for the examples that we see in the Scriptures. We thank you for the examples that we hear about on this Father's Day through the gift of fatherhood. We look at many other men and women in our families, in our neighborhoods, in our communities that show us what it means to put our faith and trust in you. And so we pray and ask for your strength to step forward and make that commitment, to follow you wholeheartedly with our lives, to feel you in our souls from our head to our toes, to experience you in this whole new life that you have offered for us. We thank you for that powerful gift, and thank you for the forgiveness of our sins. We pray now that you would be with us as we respond to you. In Jesus' name, amen.